Imagine a quiet street, a picture-perfect neighborhood, the kind of place where neighbors wave to each other. But what if one of those houses held a secret so dark, so terrifying, it would stain the town's memory forever? What if behind that closed door, something truly evil was taking root? It all starts with a house. To the outside world, it was just another home, but lights would be on at all hours. People came and went, their faces a mixture of serene smiles and quiet intensity. They would tell you they had found a new family, a new purpose, but what they wouldn't tell you was the price of that new life. They wouldn't mention the rules, the control, the fear. The people living inside called themselves the family of the eternal light. Their leader was a man who promised them everything. He offered them salvation from a broken world, a sense of belonging they had craved their entire lives. His words were like a siren song, drawing in the lost and the lonely. But his answers came with a cost paid not in money, but in something far more precious. This is not a story from a horror movie. It is real. It happened. And the most terrifying part is that it all unfolded in plain sight. What is a cult? It's easy to believe we would never fall for something like that. We are too smart, too independent. But the truth is far more unsettling. Cults don't advertise themselves as cults. They present themselves as self-help groups, spiritual movements. They offer solutions to life's biggest problems: loneliness, uncertainty, a lack of purpose. The leader is almost always charismatic. They make you feel seen. They make you feel special. Slowly the world outside begins to fade. Old friends, your family. For the members of the family, the promise was a world free from pain. Their leader, a man they called Father, assured them they were chosen to build a new perfect society. The price of this utopia was absolute obedience. He dictated their relationships. He dictated their finances. Doubts were seen as a sign of spiritual weakness. Questions were a betrayal. The community that once felt so welcoming now became a system of surveillance. The darkness crept in slowly. It started with grueling purification rituals designed to break down a person's will. Long hours of labor, sleep deprivation, public confessions. In reality, they were tools of control, designed to exhaust the body and cloud the mind. And then came the final, terrible price. The leader taught that some souls were too corrupt to be saved, and that for the good of the group they had to be released. It was presented not as murder, but as an act of mercy, a holy duty. The house on the hill, once a symbol of hope, was about to become a tomb. Every cult has its architect. For the family, it was Silas Thorne. His story was carefully crafted, but public records showed a different story. A story of failed businesses, broken relationships, and a string of minor cons. Silas Thorne was not a spiritual seeker. He was a master manipulator, a student of human weakness. He was a master of a technique known as love bombing. For someone who had felt invisible, this sudden flood of positive attention was intoxicating. But this intense affection served a darker purpose. It created an immediate and powerful bond. This was the first chain being forged. The community grew, one lost soul at a time. The one thing they had in common was a void in their lives. Silas Thorne was an expert at identifying that void and promising to fill it. There comes a moment when a line is crossed. For the followers of Silas Thorne, it was a secret ceremony he called the unbinding. He told them that to truly be free, they had to sever the final tie to the corrupt laws of the outside world. They had to commit a criminal act. With each law they broke, the psychological wall between them and the outside world grew higher. They were now complicit. The shared guilt was a powerful chain binding them all together. Leaving now meant becoming a traitor. He had transformed his spiritual followers into a criminal conspiracy, and he knew that now they would be willing to do anything. The first life to be taken was not a stranger, it was one of their own. Her name was Sarah. Her faith began to waver. Her dissent did not go unnoticed, but the public shaming failed to break her. She spoke of leaving. A defector is a witness. A witness could bring down everything. Silas decided she must be made an example of. The act itself was brutal. Silas decreed that they must all participate. This was the ultimate test of loyalty. They were all murderers now, but the murders shattered one of them on the inner circle. His name was Michael. He lived in a constant state of terror. He knew his own life was worthless. In the middle of the night, he slipped out of the compound and ran. He was a fugitive from the only life he had known. And he was a man confessing to being an accessory to murder. But Michael had details. He told them about Sarah and David. And he drew a map marking where the bodies were buried. The whispers of the fugitive had given them what they needed, probable cause. The time for polite welfare checks was over. In the cold, grey light of dawn, the sheriff walked up to the heavy wooden door and knocked. The raid was like waking from a dream into a nightmare. The sacred bubble they had inhabited for years had been violently obliterated. Guided by Michael's map, forensic teams went to work. The family of the Eternal Light's darkest secrets were finally being unearthed. Silas Thorne himself was arrested without a struggle. The architect of so much pain and suffering showed no guilt. The members who were not part of the inner circle were suddenly adrift. Their identities had been systematically dismantled. Reconnecting with their biological families was fraught with pain. The person who left was not the same person who came home. The psychological trauma was immense. The recovery was not a matter of weeks or months, but a lifelong journey. The story of Silas Thorne is a cautionary tale. It is a lesson in recognizing the warning signs. It's easy to judge the victims, but anyone, given the right set of circumstances, can become vulnerable. The house on the hill is gone, but the darkness it represented is a permanent part of the human condition. It waits for the vulnerable, the lonely, the seeker, promising light. But always leading to the darkest of secrets.